Alrighty, guys. Good morning to you all here. Hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful Friday. A happy July 11th, 2025 there. We've got a lot to talk about today. Yesterday's severe weather threat did not really come to fruition. We really didn't see but really a couple tornado warnings in Iowa yesterday. Good thing is none of those were observed from what we saw of. We'll see if any damage reports or anything comes back. Yesterday just ultimately failed, and there were a lot of reasons why it failed yesterday. We had a lot of convection in the morning, kind of limited the instability where our northern mode was going to be at up in Iowa and Nebraska, which is always a good thing to see. So that is one good piece of the puzzle there. We did see a lot of heavy rainfall that fell over in South Carolina. Savannah, Georgia saw a lot of rainfall. We had a tornado warning in Savannah, Georgia yesterday. Luckily, that tornado did not touch down, but we had some wind out there. Some heavy rain was really the main story yesterday. So the roads and the rivers and the creeks and all of that are already saturated. So if we get any more storms today, which we will see potentially some flooding add up. So we'll be talking about that here. We're also going to talk about the 10 million people that are under severe weather risk today. We've got a level 1 and level 2 risk today. Could get upgraded to a 3. We'll see what happens. But if you are in Michigan all the way down towards portions of Oklahoma and Texas, we've got a huge marginal risk that's out, as well as a slight risk that extends from Kansas City all the way to Chicago, where once again 10 million people are under the gun for severe weather today, including the threat tornadoes, damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour, and hail. I don't think the damaging wind threat and the hail threat will be too bad today. We'll have to really watch for that initial supercell threat once these cells get going this afternoon. Here we'll have to watch for the tornado threat, but other than that, we're going to have a pretty broad risk zone today for severe weather. I want to talk about what's going on here this morning first. You can see pretty much a quiet start to the most of the United States here, especially down here in the southeast. It's typically the thing when we've got storms that'll be bubbling up in the afternoon. We'll have general thunderstorms out there today. We've got our main severe weather corridor that's going to extend from Oklahoma back all the way up into Michigan today. Pretty widespread areas. It's actually going to be one of the biggest risk zones in quite some time that we've seen SPC issue. We'll talk about what that looks like here in just a second. Also got some thunderstorms moving up here, a complex of storms moving up in the Dakotas. It'll help bring another piece of energy into tomorrow and going into Sunday. I will let you guys know here in advance. There will be we won't be able to live stream all day today. We're going to have some stuff going on today. I've got a lot of different things I'm trying to figure out with streams and getting some stuff built. I will make this announcement to you guys. If there's anybody, for the love of anything, I cannot talk today. I will make this announcement to you guys. For anybody out there that is like a graphic designer or does video editing or any thumbnail edits, please message me or let me know. I'm looking for 1 or 2 people to work with that are able to help me do that. I've just got a lot of things that I'm trying to get posted, and making video edits and stuff like that makes it really, really hard to get stuff out to you guys a little bit sooner because it takes a long process to do. So if there's anybody out there that watches this that is interested in doing that, do send me a message. I'm looking for somebody. I don't have anybody quite yet set, but until that day gets here or until that time gets here, I'll be looking for somebody. So if you're interested, definitely send me a message and we'll get back to that. Let's talk about here what we're going to be seeing with the Storm Prediction Center outlook here for today. We do have a marginal and a slight risk, so 2 slight risks that are at play today. A huge marginal risk basically extends from Minnesota all the way up here into Wyoming and back down into Mexico, and then the Texas-New Mexico line, and then a marginal risk that extends all the way out here into Michigan and Ohio. So a very, very big risk zone today for scattered to isolated or isolated to scattered wind and hail. We do have 2 slight risks, one over here into northeastern Colorado, southwestern portions of Nebraska, and southeastern Wyoming, and our main slight risk here where we're going to be watching for the threat for a couple of tornadoes, damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour, and hail 1 to 2 inches in diameter. And that includes Milwaukee, Chicago. We've got portions of Kansas City here, getting into Des Moines, Iowa once again, getting into portions of northern Illinois. We had a couple tornado warnings in Illinois last night as well, so something to be very, very mindful of here. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a 2% and a 5% tornado risk. So yesterday at this time, this was just a 2%. They did go ahead and upgrade that to the 5%. Chicago, you are in that, so we are going to have to watch for the threat for tornadoes here from Chicago back down into central and northern Illinois, getting into northern portions of Missouri and eastern portions of Iowa today. So we'll be watching that. We'll be monitoring that situation very, very closely for today. If you are in those risk zones, be weather aware, have alerts on your phones, know where to go when you get a tornado warning. If you live in such cities as Chicago, definitely don't think that you can't see tornadoes, because you can. We saw an EF3 go through St. Louis a couple months ago, so it can happen in major cities. Do be weather aware as always. Wind threat today is 15 and 5% for winds up to 70 miles per hour, and we do have a hail threat for 15 and 5% as well for hail up to 2 inches in diameter. So not looking at anything hatched right now. We'll see if SPC changes or updates anything in the next update around 11:30 this morning. We'll look at that then. Marginal risk for tomorrow and a slight risk again for tomorrow. This includes northeastern portions of Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and eastern Michigan. Level 2 slight risk for tomorrow. We'll have an isolated tornado risk up into Michigan tomorrow with a low-level jet about 45 to 50 knots, which will help spin some things up. Got another huge marginal risk that extends from Wisconsin and Canada all the way down again to Texas and New Mexico, and broadening out into the lower Ohio Valley and the plains and the Missouri Boot Hill. So another day for severe weather tomorrow, as we see a widened trough that will kind of be allowing instability to bring up from the Gulf as well as moisture, and we'll have just enough for some storms to go severe tomorrow. The good news is the tornado threat for tomorrow is not super, super high, but we do have a 2% tornado risk that goes from Indianapolis, Indiana, all the way up to Fort Wayne, getting into Detroit, Michigan, and eastern Michigan. We also have a wind threat tomorrow, 15 and 5% for winds up to 70, and hail threat at 5. So really, again, tomorrow will probably be our lower in day for storms. And then we get to the day 3 outlook, and we have another severe weather risk here, another marginal risk that extends from Texas, New Mexico, all the way up into the Ohio River Valley here, and then another one up here into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. I do want to start to watch for potential flooding again back into Central Texas, where people are recovering from just that horrific mass fatality event for flooding that happened last week in the hill country of Central Texas. So we'll be watching out for you guys down there as well. We're also still going to be keeping our eyes on the Gulf. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. The models are still back and forth if we're going to have a system or not next week. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We get to the day 4 through 8 outlook, and right now the Storm Prediction Center does not have anything, but we are still talking about days in advance here of severe weather. We'll continue to see probabilities be outlined, whether they're marginal or slight or enhanced over the next couple of days through much of next week. I do think we'll continue to see severe weather for a longevity of time here. Let's talk about what we're going to see here in our less slight risk region here in the Midwest here. We'll see supercells and showers and storms really start to initiate really actually in the next 3 to 4 hours. We could see initiation as soon as 1 to 2 o'clock here into central Iowa. Most of these storms will have a higher tornado threat as they initiate. You can start to see some of those little black tick marks in there, basically signaling updraft rotation. So we'll have to watch here Des Moines eastwards into eastern Iowa for a couple of tornadoes this afternoon, as well as eventually this will grow upscale into a cluster of storms or a line of storms where we'll basically see damaging winds exceed 70 miles per hour, 60 to 70 miles per hour, as well as the hail threat as well. And then by the time we get closer to 10, 11 p.m., this line's going to fall apart pretty quickly, and we'll mostly see general thunderstorms with some wind and some hail out there. So a pretty brief window today for severe weather. Like I said, we'll be on standby to cover. If we need to get on stream, we will. Other than that, mostly everybody else will be seeing wind and hail besides the tornado risk that extends from Kansas City all the way up into western and central Michigan. So that'll be for today. And then tomorrow we'll see storms initiate in Michigan around 3 to 4 p.m. again. Supercells could produce an isolated tornado risk over here into Indiana, Ohio, and southern and eastern Michigan around 1 to 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And then that'll extend into about 6 to 7 p.m. through the dinner time hours. And eventually this will move up into Canada. So a very brief window tomorrow again for severe weather. We'll see a widespread area down here into the Ohio Valley for general thunderstorms and up to marginal risk severe weather criteria for wind and hail as well. We'll talk more about that in the stream today as well as in the video for tomorrow. I do want to also show that slight risk that's back over here into the plains so you guys can get an idea of what we're going to be seeing here. Storms will initiate around 3, 4 o'clock again, and we'll have a couple chances of an isolated, maybe brief tornado. Wind and hail will be the primary threats after 5 to 6 p.m., and then eventually that'll grow upscale into a complex of storms, and we'll see that fizzle out by early tomorrow morning. And then we'll go again with more storms in Oklahoma and Texas again tomorrow, with marginal wind and marginal hail being the main threats for you guys there as well. Now we'll talk about our jet stream here and what we're going to be seeing over the next couple of days. Once again, a lot of shear here. You can see a little shortwave trough that's in place, which is what's giving us today's severe weather threat across the plains and the upper Midwest here. You can see another shortwave trough that'll be moving in going into the weekend here, where we'll see potentially more severe weather going into Friday or not Friday, but going into Saturday and Sunday here, and a little bit of shear down here into Texas and Oklahoma, where we'll see that marginal threat for tomorrow here. We'll also be looking at that single trough that'll be moving through on Saturday and Sunday. Could pose a little bit of a severe weather threat on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening and afternoon here going into Sunday across Wisconsin, maybe into the Great Lakes again. A little bit of shear down here in the plains where we'll have that marginal risk on Saturday, and then we get into next week and things do start to look a little bit better in terms of severe weather. I don't really expect a lot of severe weather anywhere in this area next week, so that's a good chunk of the United States. We'll still probably see some severe weather up into the high plains up into Canada going into early next week. But then I want you guys to see something here. As we get towards the end of next week, we're still going to watch for potentially some type of tropical low to develop down here in the Gulf. The models are still back and forth with this, so we'll talk more about this in the future if we get anything that decides to pop up. But I want you guys to notice something here. We're going to start to see some troughing return going into late next week. We'll have another shortwave trough next Thursday and Friday that comes in again off the high plains here that we'll be watching for severe weather. But going into the third week of July, things do start to change pretty rapidly, and we're going to start to see troughing really start to return here into the plains and the Rockies, and that could lead to some more widespread severe weather potentially. This is now over 10 days out, so we'll take this with a grain of salt, but we do start to see that troughing return, and maybe even our first big ridge for the high plains and the Rockies, which will promote severe weather and northwesterly flow. And what do you get with northwesterly flow? You get severe weather, and mostly in the form of damaging winds and what could be called as derecho setup. So we're going to have to watch this fairly closely going into the third and fourth week of July. Still ways away out to, watch for model agreements, but something we're picking up and noticing as we go into the month here, and we'll definitely be keeping the high plains and the southern, not the high plains, but the southern plains and the central plains a little bit more drier with the severe weather on top and east of that ridge. So one more thing I will walk you guys through is going to be those rainfall totals over the next 7 to 10 days, and we'll talk about what those are going to be. And you can see those higher potential flooding impacts are going to be along here today, where we see trains storm eastern Iowa, western portions of Illinois, northern Illinois. Could see 3 to 5 inches of rain, maybe a little bit higher than that. We'll be watching the Ohio River Valley and the Mid-Atlantic for severe weather, as well as the threat for thunderstorms, training thunderstorms that don't move. Could produce 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, some higher spots of 3 to 5 in those localized areas. And then down here into Florida, where we start to see going into next week that tropical moisture spin up, where we could see 3 to 5 inches of rain, maybe even some totals up towards the 10-inch mark. So we'll keep you guys updated on the latest on that. Like I said, we'll be on standby for a live stream today. I don't know quite yet when that's going to be. I've got some things I've got to get taken care of today with the stream side of things, as well as just getting some graphic stuff set up. But other than that, be safe, guys. Be weather aware, and we'll see you guys in the next one.